Hey, welcome to Pocket Change. I am Candace Lott. I never know what to do with my hands while talking, so I'll keep them busy while doing laundry. Hang out with me while I ramble on about all kinds of topics and different seasons of life I've experienced. It's going to be loads of fun. Let's get to folding. Well, hello. Happy whatever day it is in your world that you're listening to this. I hope your day is going swell. Mixing it up, filming this during the day. So I thought today I would discuss, because in order to talk about the different seasons of life and things that have helped shape me for who I am, there need to be some context to them. So there is, I feel like, some more understanding for you out there in podcast land to understand where and how some of my thoughts and ramblings come from. So today I'm going to talk about being a teen mom and what that means to me. So I made sure that Mackie was okay with me sharing this story because my story is her story. So I don't want to share anything that she wouldn't want. And so I actually walked through this entire story and kind of gave her and her sister the outline of what I was going to talk about. And Emma at the end goes, "Well, what's my story?" So they were both very cool with me sharing this. So let me set the stage for you. I was days away from turning 20, and I just wrapped up my sophomore year of college out in East Texas. And I had just signed a lease with a friend to live there for, I believe it was a 1-year lease. And was just rocking and rolling, prepared to have like a rad summer and go. Well, let me give you some further context. So, and maybe something to take away to and share with your kiddos or whatever whenever you're having the conversation when it comes to sex. So I was brand new to the whole sexual activity situation. Hadn't done the deed a few times, as people call it. So, take that and just keep that in your back pocket for whenever the conversation decides to hit, for any time you might need it. So there I was, days away from turning 20, and I had just finished. So with the college I was at, I was on a dance team, and we had just finished and our year, and we typically would dance and practice for like 4 hours a day. So lots of dancing, lots of practice, lots of, physical exertion. Well, as soon as that finished, started gaining weight. Thought that was just normal. You're done working out for 4 hours a day, and your body's like, oh, you actually can't eat Taco Bell at 2 a.m. and not gain anything. You actually do have to actually work it off. So that started happening, and I started getting sick for no reason at all. And I'm not really sure what thought came over me, but I thought, wouldn't it be crazy if I was pregnant? So I went to the corner store, little convenience store, and bought a pregnancy test. And wouldn't you know it, I was behind a priest at checkout, like full priest, black outfit with the white collar. I don't know what the official word for it is, so I'm very sorry. So there I was standing behind this priest holding this pregnancy test. And I can only imagine I probably looked like I'd seen a ghost. I was so frightened. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how I was supposed to act. I didn't know anything. Um, so I get back to my apartment. I barely start peeing. And that thing just starts screaming, pregnant, pregnant. So then I do the math in my head, the quick math that I know. Okay. Well, I'm probably pretty far along because, as I'd mentioned earlier, I was new to the whole sexual activity thing and I hadn't done it a whole lot. And it was June. It had been several months. So I cry, I cry, I cry some more. I call my best friend. She comes over, she cries with me, and then we decide that we need to go and make sure because you're 19, you have no idea what you're doing. So I go to I say we, but she came with me and held my hand and was the saving grace for me being standing up, for me even being able to move forward. So we go to the clinic, a little 24-hour clinic, and I check in. They say, what brings you here tonight? And I said, oh, I have a stomach ache. Well, that turned out to be like one of the worst experiences ever. And I hope no one ever, ever, ever experiences what I went through because it was the most demeaning, demoralizing thing to go through. I had felt like an actual garbage can of a human being by the time it was over because how could I let this happen? How could I be 19 and pregnant? How could I? It was kind of the main gist of the outing. Well, I did manage to get some actual information out of this very unfriendly doctor who decided that this was his time to scold me and tell me all about how I just was, again, a terrible human garbage of a being. He informed me that I was 6 months along, which is about what I had figured up in my head. And you might be thinking, what's 6 months along? How could you not know? How? How can that happen? Well, friends, let me tell you. So whenever I was younger, I had a doctor, and I believe she told me that she didn't think I was ever going to be able to have babies because I don't have a period. I don't have a cycle like that. I've had maybe 10 my entire life. So there's no like, alert, alert, it's happening. There's none of that, which is quite fun. Quite fun. And so there I was, 19, pregnant. Shit. What do you do? What do you do at 19 and pregnant? Just signed a lease. Hell, I was preparing and I had it in my head I was going to go to New York and try out for the Radio City Rockettes. Y'all, that didn't happen. No, it did not. Instead, I cried that entire evening, and my best friend, who is still one of my best friends, laid with me in my bed, and she just held my hand and let me cry and cry and cry and cry some more. So the next day, I call my parents, and I can still vividly remember sitting I can tell you exactly what the couch looked like, what I was wearing, what the apartment looked like, what time of day it was. It was back in the day with flip phones before they were like the all screen flip phones. And I'd open the phone, closed it, open the phone, closed it a million times. Finally got up the courage just to do it. So I call my mom and dad. Back in the day, whenever I'm sure you can still call 3 people at once. I don't know how to do it. And I called them both. And I said, hey, can we meet for lunch? Now, I was in Tyler, and they were in the Dallas Forney area where I lived. They were like, lunch? I think it was like, it's like an hour and a half before like lunchtime hit. Why? Why lunch? What's going on? And I remember my dad immediately asking, do you need money? No, you don't need money. And then my dad said, are you pregnant? And I cried. I have no idea if I actually said the word yes. No idea. Just cried. Cried. Did a lot of crying during this time of my life. Um, so I go home, and the next week is filled with so many questions. I remember saying I was going to make a shirt with the statement that says, I don't know, with a big question mark. And I was just going to point to it every time someone asked me a question. Because, again, 19 and pregnant, how could this happen? I don't understand. How could you let this happen? Why? Just all the questions. What are you going to do? Where are you going to raise it? How are you going to provide for? All the questions. Just, I don't know. Literally was just thinking about how I was going to have a rad summer a few days ago and lay out by the pool and work my retail job and again have a rad summer. So I don't know how I'm going to go about birthing and raising a human being. I hate doing my own laundry. So I moved back home, and I remember this happens, and it's not the best news at that stage in my life. I remember I had to, I had family all there, and I asked them all to come over, and I remember I asked my cousin who was pregnant as well. And we knew she was pregnant. She wasn't 6 months along when she found out. We've been very excited for her and her little boy. And I remember I brought her and her husband out on the porch. And I said, so I'm going to tell you. And for the first time, I got to tell someone, and they were relieved because she thought I had cancer. Was not in cancer, so she was relieved. She's like, oh my God, that's great. So I'll never forget. She was the only person who ever, one of the only people who ever, as I told them about my being pregnant at that stage in my life, was relieved. So come to find out, we were about 2 weeks apart in our due dates. Talk about God's timing. That one was a big one. So I then, had 3 months to prepare myself to have a baby, birth a baby, whatever that looked like. And then raise the baby. I remember just being so overwhelmed. And there is one thing that has always stayed with me is the people that treated me and spoke to me and looked at me as though I was garbage or just whatever their thoughts were, and they felt the need to vocalize them to me, as people tend to do, especially, I don't know what it is about pregnant women. They just tend to try to touch your belly without even asking. They comment on the size of you. Anyway, so the just pure, I felt just shame. I felt not only for myself, because how could I let this happen? How could I let this happen? How, how, how? And then you go and going to work, working at a retail store, and people say things to you that are so incredibly offensive. Um, and just anyway, you should just be kind, because man, there are plenty of people out there that are going to give you your 2 cents, and they're not going to be kind about it. And so if you could just make sure you're being kind, I would appreciate it, because you just never know. So there I was, working my retail store job, paying minimum wage, growing so big, because I just finished dancing for 2 years straight, nonstop, and now I was pregnant. So like, I went from like real thin to like, because I also didn't have air conditioning in my car. So what does a pregnant girl do to cool down when she doesn't have air conditioning? She buys and eats a lot of Frosties. Um, so there I was, and this is the part that is just like I'm beyond grateful for, because you don't hear it a lot when it comes to young moms. You don't hear that the family and friends gather around and support that person and that mom, and they don't let her crumble. They hold her up. They doesn't matter what their thoughts are. They don't say them to me. Um they stood by me. I mean, my group of college friends threw me a baby shower. 19-year-olds don't know how to throw baby showers. And they did it. They figured it out. They threw me and Mackenzie a shower at our favorite deli before we went to an alumni event. And it was just the most endearing thing. I remember Mackenzie got these little pink little tennis shoes, and they were just so little. I remember dancing them on my belly. And I remember this sweet friend who gave them to us, and we still have them. And then my mom and aunt threw me a shower. And it was it made all the difference in the world to have the support of people, even though they had no idea what they were going to do, how they were going to handle. I mean, my parents were young and they were grandparents all of a sudden, right? And fun fact, um, insurance doesn't cover when dependents have dependents. It's not covered. And I I was very, very grateful and fortunate to have people surround me and help me, because I felt alone and isolated. Because again, I moved back home. I was living in my old room when all my other friends were going off to their 4 year colleges and planning their careers and, going to keg parties. And I'm over there reading that book, not knowing what to expect, or what to expect and you're expecting. Reading it, and that's what I did. I remember trying to find maternity clothes and still trying to look hip. it was a wild time. And then when it came time to have her, everyone has this partner in the hospital. And I had my mom, my dad with me. And it was beautiful, and I'm so glad they were there. But I watched my cousin have her partner with her and help her. And I remember feeling so shameful that I didn't have a partner with me. And I had my mom stay the night in the hospital with me, which again, I'm so grateful for. And she'll never know exactly how much it means to me. But there's just something so different when you're in that hospital room by yourself. And you're the only parent of this kid. It was, sorry, I didn't think I was going to cry, but here I go. It is so isolating. And I am so forever thankful she came into my life when she did, because I was thinking about my adulthood, and there's not a moment in my adult life Mackenzie's not in. That's what happens whenever you have a kid young. She's been there. She's been through me trying to figure out what I want to do when I grow up. I literally didn't know. She was there when I got laid off. She was there. She was there through it all. So it's crazy to me. Like, the closer she gets to the age I had whenever I found out about her, like, the more it hits me. Like, I mean, I know I was young. I mean, I was there. I remember. But seeing my 16-year-old and knowing and just thinking, okay, so in my story, 2 years from this moment, or 3 years, is a baby. Like, it's just bananas. Anyway, but yeah, that is step one of my journey into adulthood. It was a hell of a doozy. And it shaped me for who I am 1000%. And, if there's anyone out there that's listening, that in podcast world, internet world, whatever, that is feeling so alone or so shameful because they're pregnant and alone, just know you're not alone. You're not. I'll come hold your hand. I will come hang out with you. You're not alone. And your world is changing 1000%. But man, if she didn't push me to be the best person and the best mom I could be, I wouldn't be where I am. And, I can thank her for whenever I grow up, because she made me grow up in a good way. So I'm going to go blow my nose now, because that was fun. But yeah, I promise one of the next one will be happy. We'll see. Just kind of going along things that feel as if I'd like to share. So yeah, you guys have a great week.
Thank you for listening to Pocket Change. You can find me on the internet at candice-lott.com, on Instagram at Candice J. Lott, that's Lott with 2 T's, and on Facebook as Candice Lott. I look forward to meeting you. Have a great day.